Welcome to the Moon and Gemini podcast. I am your witch in residence, April Edwards. This is our astrology of the week for July 20th to the 26th. This week is big. Jupiter in Leo becomes the central player, forming a trine to Neptune retrograde in Aries, an opposition to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, and a sextile to Uranus in Gemini. That means the creative fire of Jupiter in Leo is being pulled into conversation with vision, power, disruption, and collective change. Something wants to grow, something wants to be seen, but the growth is not simple. Because Pluto is involved, expansion brings questions of power. Because Neptune is involved, inspiration brings questions of truth. And because Uranus is involved, opportunity may arrive through disruption. Then the Sun enters Leo. Mercury stations direct in Cancer. Saturn stations retrograde in Aries, and the North Node enters Aquarius. So this week moves through expansion, visibility, review, responsibility, and a major shift in collective direction. The central theme is the future opens, but it asks for maturity before momentum. July 20th. Jupiter in Leo trine Neptune retrograde in Aries and opposing Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Jupiter in Leo expands creativity, confidence, visibility, joy, leadership, and self-expression. Neptune retrograde in Aries turns the dream inward. It asks us to examine the vision of who we are becoming. Together, this can bring inspiration, a renewed sense of creative possibility, a feeling that the self is opening towards a larger future. This is a beautiful aspect for art, spiritual courage, and reclaiming a desire that may have been buried under survival or fear. But Neptune is retrograde, so the vision needs inner honesty. It is not enough for something to feel inspiring. It has to be rooted in something real. And on the same day, Jupiter opposes Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. This deepens the entire transit. Pluto in Aquarius brings questions of systems, communities, power, technology, networks, and collective influence. Jupiter in Leo wants personal creative expansion. Pluto in Aquarius asks how that expansion affects the whole. This can bring a confrontation between individual visibility and collective power, between personal ambition and the systems that shape it, between the desire to shine and the responsibility that comes with being seen. Jupiter opposite Pluto can intensify hunger for growth, for recognition, control, or influence. So watch where expansion becomes force. Watch where confidence becomes domination. Watch where the desire to create something meaningful becomes the desire to prove something. This is powerful energy, but it needs integrity. Jupiter in Leo asks us to grow from the heart. Pluto asks what that growth serves. July 21st. Jupiter in Leo sextile Uranus in Gemini. This brings movement. Uranus in Gemini disrupts old thought patterns, accelerates information, changes communication, and opens unusual pathways. Jupiter in Leo gives those openings creative fire. Ideas may arrive quickly. A conversation may unlock a new direction. A creative project may suddenly feel possible in a way that it did not before. This is a transit of opportunity, not the kind that always arrives politely. Uranus often opens doors by interrupting what has become too predictable. Something unexpected may help you see the future differently. This is a strong energy for innovation, writing, teaching, media, performance, technology, or creative risk. But the key is to remain responsive without becoming scattered. Jupiter expands, Uranus electrifies. Together they can create momentum, but they can also create overstimulation. Not every new idea needs to become a new path. Some ideas are sparks, some are signals, some are invitations. Let the mind open, then choose what deserves your energy. July 22nd, Sun enters Leo. Leo season begins. After the emotions of Cancer, the sun returns to its own sign. The tone changes. The focus shifts towards creativity, visibility, heart, courage, play, leadership, self-expression. Leo is often reduced to performance, but Leo is deeper than attention. Leo is the solar principle, the part of us that creates because life wants to move through us, the part of us that risks being seen because hiding has become too costly, the part of us that understands joy as life force. This ingress matters because Jupiter is already in Leo. So as the sun enters Leo, the fire grows stronger. The call towards creative authority becomes louder. What wants to be expressed, what wants to be led, and what wants to be created with more courage. Leo season asks us to stop treating joy as decorative. Joy can be a source of strength, creative life can be a source of authority, but Leo also asks for heart. Visibility without heart becomes performance. Leadership without heart becomes ego. Creation without heart becomes noise. Let Leo season bring you back to the center, not the image, the heart. July 23rd, Sun in Leo square Chiron in Taurus, and Mercury stations direct in Cancer. This is tender. The Sun in Leo squares Chiron in Taurus. The Sun in Leo wants to shine. It wants confidence, expression, and creative presence. Chiron in Taurus reveals the wound around worth, safety, the body, money, stability, and the ability to receive. When these two square, the desire to be seen may activate insecurity. A creative opportunity may bring up questions of value. A moment of visibility may touch the old fear that you are not enough unless you prove yourself. This aspect may show where confidence is still tied to external confirmation. It may also show where the body does not yet feel safe enough to hold greater visibility. The healing is not to shrink. The healing is to build the foundation that allows you to remain present when you are seen. On the same day, Mercury stations direct in Cancer. This is an important turning point. Since June 29th, Mercury retrograde in Cancer has taken us back through memory, family patterns, emotional language, home, and belonging. Now Mercury begins moving forward again, but it is still in shadow. That means the retrograde story is not fully complete. Clarity may begin returning, but integration takes time. A conversation may become easier, a decision may begin to form, a memory may finally have a clearer name. But do not rush closure. Mercury direct in Cancer asks us to move forward with what we have learned, not pretend the review never happened. The message is beginning to move again. Let it move slowly. July 24th, Venus in Virgo sextile Mercury in Cancer. This is a softer aspect. After the intensity of Jupiter and Pluto themes, this transit brings practical care into emotional communication. Venus in Virgo expresses love through attention, usefulness, repair, and the devotion to the details. Mercury in Cancer speaks through memories, feeling, and the need for emotional safety. Together, they support conversations that are gentle but useful. This is a good day for repair, a small apology, a practical offer of support. It does not need to be dramatic. In fact, the strength of this aspect is in its simplicity. Say the thing kindly, do the helpful thing, make the adjustment. Let care become specific. July 25th, Pluto retrograde in Aquarius sextile Neptune retrograde in Aries. This is a slow collective aspect. It is not just about one day, but this movement continues the larger background pattern of 2026, the reimagining of identity, systems, power, technology, spirituality, and collective direction. Neptune in Aries is changing the dream of the self. Pluto in Aquarius is transforming the structures of the collective. Together, they suggest that personal awakenings and collective transformation are not separate. The way we imagine ourselves affects the systems we build. The systems we live inside affect what we believe is possible for the self. Because both planets are retrograde, the work turns inward. This is less about dramatic public action and more about recognizing what has been dissolving beneath the surface. A belief about courage may change. A relationship to community may change. A vision of the future may become less abstract. This transit asks us to notice the deeper current. Not every transformation announces itself immediately. Some changes begin as a shift in which we can no longer believe. July 26th, Saturn stations retrograde in Aries. North Node enters Aquarius. We close the week with Saturn stationing retrograde. Saturn in Aries has been teaching responsibility around action, anger, selfhood, courage, and personal authority. When Saturn stations retrograde, that lesson turns inward. The question becomes less about outer obstacles and more about internal structure. Where do you hesitate to ask? Where do you need stronger self-command? Saturn retrograde in Aries asks us to review our relationship with courage, not loud courage, not performative courage, the kind that follows through, the kind that can act without needing to dominate. This is a maturing process. It may slow things down, but slowing down is not always denial. Sometimes it is how the structure becomes strong enough to carry the action. Also on the 26th, the North Node enters Aquarius. This is a major shift in collective direction. The North Node moving into Aquarius begins a new chapter around community, systems, network, collective responsibility, innovation, and the future we are building together. The North Node in Pisces asked us to move towards compassion, surrender, spiritual trust, and the dissolving of rigid boundaries. The North Node in Aquarius asks a different question. How do we build the future together? What communities are capable of holding real change, and which systems need redesign? With the South Node moving through Leo, the shadow becomes excessive attachment to personal drama, performance, and the need to be centered. The growth path moves towards collaboration, towards shared vision, towards the intelligence of the group. This does not mean abandoning the self. It means understanding that the self is part of a larger pattern. The future is not built by one person shining alone. It is built through networks of responsibility. This week begins with Jupiter opening a major field of possibility. Jupiter trine Neptune brings inspiration. Jupiter opposite Pluto brings power and consequence. Jupiter sextile Uranus brings breakthrough. Then the Sun in Leo enters, strengthening the call towards creative life and visible self-expression. But Chiron reminds us that visibility can touch the wound of worth. Mercury stations direct in Cancer and begins moving the emotional story forward. Venus and Mercury offer practical repair. Pluto and Neptune continue reshaping the deeper collective field. And by the end of the week, Saturn retrograde and the North Node's entrance into Aquarius shift the tone towards maturity, review, and collective responsibility. This week is not asking us to reject expansion. It is asking us to grow with integrity, to let inspiration become structure, to let visibility become responsibility, to let the future become something we build. The future is arriving, and it is asking not only who you are becoming, but what your becoming makes possible for others. This work grows through word of mouth. If it's been meaningful to you, you can like, share, or subscribe. That's how it reaches the ones who need it.